Okay, for the next one, question 5. So we talk about a mixture M containing two compounds, and the cation there may be one of this, and the anion may be any two of this. And we have some tests here. So we look at the first test, appearance. If the appearance is a colorless crystalline solid, well, we can guess it must be a hydrated salt. Okay, if you go by memory, you may be able to remember what are some of the crystalline solids, but it's not necessary over here. Okay, here if we look at this, warming with sodium hydroxide, again same thing. Warming with sodium hydroxide is a cation test. And this cation test is likely testing for ammonium ion. Okay, ammonium ion. Okay, however here, they didn't say anything about a gas being produced or testing for a gas. But if we look further on, because when we add sodium hydroxide, it's a cation test, which means if calcium, copper, iron 2 or iron 3 is present, they will all have PPT. Definitely. For these four, definitely there must be a PPT. But ammonium ion is the only one without a PPT. So we can safely assume that the cation could be ammonium and not the rest. Okay, though they did not show a positive test for the gas, because in this observation they did not test for whether a gas is produced and the test to confirm what gas is it. Okay, so they're just warming and they say that there's no visible change for at least that precipitate. Okay. So this would be the best answer. Next one, we warm the solution M with dilute hydrochloric acid. Again, no visible reaction. So what could this mean? This means that in this M, you could have chloride or sulfate. Because if you have the carbonate ion, remember your reactions of acid? If acid reacts with a carbonate, you get salt, water, and a carbon dioxide gas. Okay, so here it says no visible reaction, means there wasn't even any reaction happening. So likely carbonate ion is absent. So we have chloride and sulfate. So just based on this, you can write down some thoughts about what cation and what anion could be present. Okay, so then we explain it in this way. So part 1, we explain why which cation is not present. And what's the reason? It's 2 marks, so you must give 2 reasons for it. Okay, 1 mark to state, 1 mark for the reason. Next one, state the anion which is not present. So 1 mark for the anion that is not present, and again the reason. So here, because there is only one anion as the answer, so the marks is only 1 mark. Okay, then next we move on. It says name the 2 compounds. So since it has ammonium, it must be ammonium something. So the anion is either the chloride or the sulfate. So the 2 compounds is ammonium chloride and ammonium sulfate. Okay, finally it says describe a test to identify one of the anions. So the anions is either chloride or sulfate. So if you know that the anion is chloride, you could just follow the question before, where it told you how to test for chloride ion, and write it down in words over here. Okay, alternatively, you could describe how we test for sulfate ion using a nitric acid or any acid with barium nitrate or barium chloride, okay, to give you the barium sulfate. So you could also give the test for the sulfate ion. Okay, next question, question 6 over here. So this is a question that talks about finding the mass given the mole of sodium carbonate. So the formula is number of moles equals to mass over molar mass. So mass means number of moles times molar mass. So number of moles is 0.1, molar mass, look at the chemical formula, and this is for sodium, 2 Na, 1 carbon, 3 oxygen, and this is your answer. Okay, next one, volume of carbon dioxide. So volume of carbon dioxide is a volume of a gas. So volume of a gas, if we want to find out, we must use number of moles equals to volume over 24 dm cube. Okay, so if you want to find volume, we must take the number of moles of carbon dioxide times 24 dm cube. But we do not have the number of moles of carbon dioxide. If you read, they gave us only sodium carbonate and not the number of moles of carbon dioxide. So what we do is mole ratio. Based on the equation over here, comparing sodium carbonate and carbon dioxide, mole ratio is 1:1. So if they give me 0.1 mole of sodium carbonate, it means that there is the same number of moles of carbon dioxide. So now we know our number of moles of carbon dioxide is 0.1 moles. Volume equals to number of moles times 24 dm cube. So 0.1 times 24 gives you the answer. Okay, and finally, last one. Calculate the number of carbon dioxide molecules. This is talking about particles. So the next triangle is number of moles equals to number of particles over 6 times 10 to the power 23. So number of particles means you must take the number of moles of carbon dioxide times this. So number of moles we found earlier on was 0.1 mole, and then this is your answer. So this question is quite direct. All you need to do is remember that 3 formulas from mole concept as well as the mole ratio which you learn under chemical calculations. And with that, you will be able to do this question. Next question, question 7. Question is given. It asks you to arrange the metals A to F in order of increasing reactivity. Means least reactive to most reactive. So if you look at it, A, no bubbles at all. C, very slow bubbling. Followed by B, slow bubbling. Followed by F, steady bubbling. Steady is faster than slow, okay, but slower than anything that is fast or vigorous. So steady bubbling comes first. Then we have E. E strangely says slow to start, but the moment it starts, it is a rapid bubbling. That means E is more reactive. And finally, D would be the most reactive as it's a vigorous bubbling. Okay, so now the question that you have on your mind is likely the same question as part B. Why the reaction involving E was slow to start? So again, this is a thinking question. This statement was found in your speed of reaction notes, talking about metal being covered by an oxide layer. And when the metal is covered by an oxide layer, it's because the metal is quite reactive with air. So there's an oxide layer. So it takes a while for the oxide to dissolve in the acid before the acid can react with the metal. The way this oxide dissolves in the acid is a reaction, because acid can react with a metal oxide. So the metal oxide will react with the acid first, then finally the acid can react with this metal, and that is the true reactivity of that metal. Okay, next, question 8, again on metals. So if you read the question, part A says this: steel is an alloy. Explain why the food can, why is it made of steel and that is tough? So explain why steel is tough and cannot be bent. So here it gives you a hint on alloy. So they're asking you why an alloy is stronger, why an alloy is harder. So then you have to give the explanation here. Okay? So this is the explanation, why an alloy is stronger and harder. The next one, explain how the food can made of steel can be protected by a layer of tin. So this tin covered the entire steel can to protect it. So it must to prevent it from corrosion. So how can tin prevent the steel can from corrosion? It's because tin is a less reactive than iron, which is why it can protect the whole thing. Okay, so tin is less reactive than iron. So when the steel is coated with tin, the tin will not react so readily as compared to the iron in steel. Okay. Last part for part C is give one important benefit of recycling steel. So any of the benefits of recycling can be listed down. Example, non-renewable, save costs, okay, as the money is saved in the energy needed to extract the new metals, And here recycling will prevent ugly sides of script still left around. This is more about talking about the perhaps the land pollution as well. Okay, next question, question 9 is about fractional distillation of crude oil. So here, instead of showing you all the 7 fractions, it shows you 5 of the fractions, and you need to identify what are these fractions. So okay, first of all, we read the question part A. Describe 2 differences between X and Y in terms of their physical properties. So X is higher up, Y is lower down. So that is what we can tell, is that there is an increase in molecular size, Y being bigger, X being smaller. So when we talk about the increase in molecular size, we should remember that the physical property is talking about the melting and boiling point increasing, viscosity increasing, flammability decreasing. So any of these 3 answers are the more common answers. Okay, and of course, if you want to link up to say that because Y is less flammable, so it burns less easily, which is why it has a smokier flame, that would be accepted as well. Okay, but the main thing is about it being less flammable, because we're talking about physical properties. Okay, then the next part B, it says give one use. So we need to identify these fractions before we can talk about the use. So if you look at this diagram, highest will be petroleum gas, P, lowest will be bitumen. So we know this 2 is set. Now we check and see what else will we have. So petroleum gas is followed by petrol, followed by naphtha, followed by kerosene, and after kerosene you still have 2 spaces here for 2 more fractions. Okay, so it's diesel oil and lubricating oil. So this is because when the vapor goes up, it has to condense first and comes out. The only one that the vapor goes up and does not condense is petroleum gas. But the rest of it, it will condense and come out, condense and come out, and so on. Which is why lubricating oil will come out here. And finally, bitumen, which is a really thick, almost nearly like a solid, will be right at the bottom coming out. Okay, so this would be the answer for your part B. Okay, next. Question 10. 10 is a relatively simple question. Ethane, propane, chemical formula, structural formula. Ethane and propane both are in the alkane family. Alkane family, CnH2n plus 2, and all of them have single bonds. Okay, so this would be your answer. So check your answer. Ethane has 2 carbon. Propane has 3 carbon. Methane is the one that has 1 carbon. Okay, next. So B part 1, the question says explain the term homologous series. So homologous series, you will need to explain some of this definition that it has, or properties that it has, to get your 1 mark. Okay, and because this one is talking about alkane, so you can also say that it is a group of saturated organic compounds or hydrocarbons that has a general formula of CnH2n plus 2. Okay, next one, part 2, it says methane undergoes a reaction with chlorine. So methane is alkane. So alkane has only 2 reactions, either combustion. Alkane only has 2 reactions, either combustion or substitution. So this is with chlorine, halogen, so this is substitution. And for substitution with chlorine, because alkanes are not very reactive, it requires UV light. Okay, UV light. And for last part, it says nonane is an alkane containing 9 carbon atoms. So if it's an alkane, it has to follow this general formula. So 9, C9, 9 times 2, 18, 18 plus 2, 20. So C9H20.